Hello everybody, welcome along to another in our series of COVID and property presentations. Today we're going to be looking at financial tips for property investors during COVID-19. Hopefully giving you a few insights and a few little helpful tips along the way as you look at what to do as an existing or potential property investor at this time. As we start off every time, we need to just have a look at our disclaimer and just a reminder that you need to review your personal circumstances before acting. Feel free to contact us, we'd love to help you out. Let's have a look. Tips for if you're an owner or a potential buyer of a property at this moment. There's some things that you seriously want to consider. And the first one is not to be too nervous about short-term price instability. Whenever any crisis occurs, whether it be COVID, financial crisis, anything whatsoever, you're naturally going to have fear and speculation in prices. So you're going to see movements and conversations. Don't worry about them in the short term. You need to remember property is a long-term asset and should be viewed in that regard. You also want to ignore doomsdays. We've had reports in the paper of people suggesting the property market could fall up to 30% as a result of COVID. Not only do we not agree with that, we think there's some factual reasons why that won't occur, which include the fact that interest rates are super low right now. You're not going to have necessarily sellers that are willing to take ridiculously low ball offers because interest rates have been reduced down to between 2 and 4%, which means they might as well have a holding cost for another year and see what happens of 2 to 4%, than perhaps offer an instant discount to sell the property of 5, 10, 15%. I just don't think that's going to occur, particularly because of the fact they can also defer their loan repayments for up to 6 months to see what happens. So they're far likely to delay a decision to sell than to take a low ball offer, thanks to that interest rates coming down. We're also going to see population growth go very low in Australia for a short term because roughly half of the population growth traditionally comes from migration. This is going to create a temporary vacuum, but as soon as the borders start reopening, you're going to see that fill very quickly. The people that were intending to migrate will arrive, the people that were due to migrate will also arrive, and then you're going to get an extra number of people that thought we might as well migrate to somewhere as wonderful as Australia, because look how that happened. So don't forget that will need to stabilize. If you act quickly, you may be able to catch some unsuspecting sellers that don't realize that the reason there's not as many buyers is because they can't come into the country. But we're already seeing an increase in online purchases for people that are stuck overseas but still want to acquire. So that may not be as big an issue, but as that population growth returns, expect a kick up of prices. Obviously, the key thing that you have to do with your property is make sure it's as livable as possible. We've seen a separation of the market between livable, good property and barely livable, inferior property. You want to be in the livable sector. Size, space, location, all these things matter, but of course relevant to your budget and circumstances. If you have an existing property portfolio, it's getting harder and harder to finance your next acquisition. So you might find you're also needing to shuffle the deck a little bit and sell a property to buy a next property. So sell the ones that you consider to be inferior, replace it with something superior, and you can't go wrong. But as a general rule for an investor, we've always said, don't buy a property that you wouldn't live in. If you wouldn't live in it, why would someone else live in it and pay you a premium rent? Why would someone else come and pay you a premium when you want to sell it in the future? The more livable, likely the more profitable. As I mentioned, reshuffling your portfolio is something that you generally want to consider. It is something that you need to do because the property market is shifting and changing in its direction. We're not likely to see significant increase on inferior property because there's just too much supply coming into the market of that at the moment. Reshuffle if you need to, you won't regret it. And if you haven't already bought your future home, you want to seriously consider doing that sooner than later. Having too many investment properties but no future home is not really the wisest choice for most people. You need somewhere to live because it's a basic human necessity. And I haven't yet found a landlord that would allow me to stay in their property for free. So if you have your home, hopefully one day you can pay it off and you can live there free of cost and exploit that capital. It's still the only capital gains tax free asset in Australia for investors. You want to have a look there. If you live in your home, principal residence exemption applies. And don't expect sellers to give you those massive discounts. As I mentioned earlier, they're going to be reluctant thanks to the lower holding costs and the deferral. You know, if you want to buy, you're going to need to be reasonable in your offer, and you're going to need to entice them to a sale, because there'll be a few people behind you that are willing to do that too. You know, don't expect to have a massive discount on a premium property. It's highly unlikely at this time. And of course, the trick is, with a time like now, you have to act. You can't make money if you don't acquire. You know, so fortune does follow the brave, but you've also got to be careful not to be foolish, because it doesn't follow the foolish. You don't want to be buying somebody else's mistake. You don't want to buy a property that is not, adequately livable, and therefore giving you the best opportunity of future capital gain success. We've been here to help property investors in Australia since 1995, over 25 years, for helping you with your tax, your finance, your property management, your property sales. Our team is ready, available and willing to give you assistance to suit your personal circumstances and help you get through with your existing portfolio, add to it, or start off your new portfolio in Australia. If you need help, visit our websites, drop us an email. We'll look forward to hearing from you.